Okay everyone, here is the long-awaited video on factoring trinomials. The one on your test will take me a little bit longer to do, so I'll try to get that done later today or tomorrow afternoon. But until then, we can work on all these worksheets. I'm going to do some of the evens on worksheet 2 and 3 to teach you how to factor trinomials. Worksheets 2, 3, and 4 are all factoring trinomials. So let's just start with number 2 on your worksheet. And this one is d squared, I'm going to use all the variables, plus 20d plus 64. This is a trinomial because it has 3 parts, and you factor trinomials typically into 2 binomials. So the first thing you do is you make 2 sets of parentheses. You look at the coefficient of all these first ones is going to be 1. But this is the case for even if it's a 2 or a different number. You look at your last sign right here. If it's a plus, both signs are going to be the same, and you have to say, what are they going to be? Are they both going to be plus, or are they going to be minus? So if it's a plus, they're both going to be the same, and you look to the first one to see what they're both going to be. So this one is they're both pluses. Then you say, what times what gives me my first term? Well, that's easy, d times d. So you put it in the first spot. And then you say, what times what gives me 64, and when I add them, they give me 20. So I have to know my multiplication tables somewhat. This one's a little bit tricky too. So we think of what factors give us 64. So we have 8 times 8. It looks like, I don't even know all my factors for this one. And what else goes into 64 here? You can use your calculator. Let me just pull up the calculator. Nope, my phone is connected. Hold on a second. There we go. I'm going to get my calculator out. You can just see it over here even. So I have 64 divided by 4. And that gives me 16. So I'm going to have 4 times 16. And Kirsten, I was making a video. So I have 4 times 16, and I just kind of guessed around till I got something. So 4 and 16, when I add them, they give me 20, so I can put them in here, and I have it factored. Now, you're always going to need to check it. This was an easy one because the coefficient was 1. It gets much more complicated when the coefficient's not 1. So we check it. We do the outer, we FOIL it. So the first term, d times d, is d squared. The outer terms, remember first outer, the outer term is 16d. The inner term is 4d, and the last term, we know 4 times 16 is 64. And when we add these two together, we get d squared plus 20d plus 64, and it's going to look just like what we started with. Now, usually, since you're saying what times what gives me this, and what times what gives me this, your first and last terms are always right. The one you need to check to make sure your outer and your inner add up to your middle. Let's try another one. Let's go on to 4. R squared minus 18r plus 72. So, trinomial factors into 2 binomials. What times what gives me r squared? That'd be r times r. What times what gives me 72, so that when I add the factors together, they give me 18. So we look at our last sign. The last sign is positive. That means they're both going to be the same. What are they going to be the same as? We look at our first sign, and it's negative. They're both going to be negative. So what times what gives me 72, and they add together to give me 18. So that would be 9 times 7, or 9 times 8. Now the problem is they don't add together to give me 18. So this is another one that's going to be a little bit trickier than they typically will be in your book. So you have to think of different things. So I'm going to pull my calculator back up because I can't think of it right on the top of my head here. So 72 divided by, I know it's divisible by 36, but that would be 36 times 2. Let's divide this by 6. And I get 12. Ah, I hit it. Okay. 6 times 12. So these aren't coming right to my head, so I have to divide them by different things until I get two numbers that add together to give me the middle term. So I'm going to put the 6 here and the 12 here, and then all you have to do is check the outer and the inner and make sure they give you the middle. So it's going to be negative 12r, negative 6r is negative 18r. So this one works. Let's do the next one. 6. S squared plus 3s, I'm doing half your worksheet for you here, minus 4. Add my window down a little bit. So here we go. We make our two sets of parentheses. We look at our last sign. This one's different. This is a negative sign. That means both signs are going to be different. So we put a negative here, plus here, or you could do plus and minus. It doesn't matter. This last sign tells you, since it's negative, they're going to be different. Just like this is a different sign, these are going to be negative. So we say, what times what gives me s squared, s and s. What times what gives me 4, and when I subtract them, I'm going to get 3. So we think of our factors, 4 times 1, or 2 times 2. This one's a little bit easier. So we need 4 and 1, and we need it so that the bigger one, we want the bigger one to win, so we're going to put the bigger number here, the smaller number here. So look, our outer is 4s, our inner is minus 3s, and that gives us, minus s, that gives us positive 3s. So you have to decide where to put your factors here, because you have a negative and a positive, so when you add them together they have to give you this middle one. So the bigger one has to be the positive one. Let's just do another one. 8x squared minus 5x minus 14. Okay, two sets of parentheses. The last sign is negative, that means one's plus, one's minus. X times x. Factors 7 times 2, or 1 times 14. So this time it's which two, when you subtract them, you get the middle number. Well, if we subtract 2 from 7, we're going to get 5. So this is our winning combination. This is going to be negative, so our biggest one has to be negative. So I'm going to put the 7 there and the 2 there. Your outer is negative 7x, your inner is positive 2, and that gives us negative 5. Keep moving down here. Let's see, 10. 10 is pretty easy, 12 is pretty easy, 14, let's try 14, it's a little bit different. A squared plus 12ab plus 20b squared. Okay, the only difference here is you have this b squared at the end. So a times a, if you look at this last sign, it's positive, it means they're both going to be the same. What are they going to be the same as? They're the same as this one, so they're both plus. What times what gives me 20b and b squared, and when I add them I get 12. Well, my combinations are 5 times 4 and 10 times 2, and of course there's always 20 times 1. So look, this one right here, when I add these together, because it says when you add them, I'm going to get 12. So I'm going to put right here, I'm going to put a 10b. So we have to have a b since we have a variable at the end, and a 2b. When we check our outer, we get 2ab, and our inner we get 10ab, and that's going to give us 12ab. I'm going rather fast because this is an Algebra 1 concept. Let's get to a more difficult one. It's going to all change when you hit 15, so let's do number 16. 9a squared minus 21a minus 8. Alright, this one is different, and it's severely different because we no longer have a 1 in front, we have a 9. So here we go. Make two sets of parentheses. Look at the last sign, they're going to be different. So put a plus here, a minus here. You need to be ready with your eraser because you're not going to get these right away, and you're going to need to erase your problems and fill in your numbers. This time, before there was only one combination for 1, it was just 1 times 1. This time it's either going to be 3 times 3 or it's going to be 9 times 1. over here for the 8, we either have 2 times 4 or 9 or 8 times 1. So there's several combinations that we can get, and the only way you can do these is trial and error. So we just pick one. I'm going to put a 3a here, and I'm going to put a 3a here. I'm just trying the first combination out. And then I pick a 2 and a 4 or an 8 and a 1 to go here and here. Now you can get a little bit, you can think a little bit, or you can just plug them in and see what happens. I'm just going to plug them in, I'm not even going to think. There we go, 2 and 4. Now, you can't just walk away and say, okay, I got it. You have to check your outer and inner and make sure you get your middle term. So if I do my outer, I get negative 12a, and if I do my inner, I'm going to get 6a. Can that in any way give me 21? No, it can't. That's what I said. You got to get your eraser out. Whoops, that wasn't a good eraser color, was it now? Hold on a second. Get my eraser out again, and I'm going to erase these. I'm not going to erase the 3 and 3a and 3a. I'm going to leave that in and try all my other combinations. So here we go. Back to try number 2. So I tried that one, didn't work, but it can work again if we change the front numbers. Let's try the 8 and the 1. Oh, you know what? I forgot to rearrange them. I forget how I put them in there now. It won't matter. Okay, so let's do an 8 and a 1. So my outer is negative 3a, and my inner is positive 24a. And guess what? I'm getting a 21a, but instead of it being negative, it's positive. So all I have to do in that case is change my signs. So you need to do this not in pen, but in pencil. So we need the bigger combination to be negative, and that's how we do it. So I'm going to end this video right now. I think I have someone coming to be tutored soon, but this will give you a start, and I'm going to pick up with these next time. So you should be able to do worksheet number 2 for right now, and you could probably keep going because they're all kind of similar.